I just watched a video by the Yankee Marshal where he listed his top 5 carry revolvers, and watching the video it became obvious that he meant concealed carry. So let's see, his choices were number 5, Smith Wesson 637, which could possibly also be a 642, he mentioned, which is the hammerless version. I like the 642 better myself, and that would be a really good carry revolver. Number 4, the Smith Wesson 66. Now pay attention to this, because we'll come back to that. The 66 is a 2.5 inch barrel K-frame, medium frame, 357 Magnum. It weighs somewhere in the neighborhood of 35-36 ounces. It's pretty heavy for concealed carry. And he mentions that if you like something newer, you could also choose the 686. Now the 686 is Smith & Wesson's answer to the Ruger GP100. I don't want to carry it every day. Number 3, he mentioned the Smith & Wesson Model 60, the late model version, which is in 357 Magnum 357 Magnum. So it's actually a slightly larger and slightly heavier version of the original Smith & Wesson Model 60 J-frame and 38 Special. Number 2, he lists the Colt Magnum Carry. Now that would be a good choice, except that they only made it 1, maybe 2 years, so it's almost impossible to find one of those. It is a great revolver, but I don't think I've ever seen one for sale. Not a used one. I saw it, you know, when they were actually making them, but even then they weren't common. Basically what it is it's similar to a Detective Special, only in 357 Magnum, and with totally different lockwork. It's got more durable and robust lockwork than the Detective Special did. Colt made the Detective Special 2 for a couple of years, and that had the new lockwork. And then they made a 357 Magnum version, which was the Magnum Carry. And I believe they only made it 1 year. So anyway, I mean, why even list that since you can't find one? If you did, it would probably cost $2,500. And number 1, imagine this now. He chose the Chiappa Rhino. Man, those things are ugly. And they're chunky and they're heavy. I've handled one and I did not like it. And he said, now this one's loaded because it's what I carry every day. And he showed close-ups of it. And, you know, he made it sound like, yeah, this has just been his go-to carry weapon. But, you know, when you look at it, there's absolutely no wear on it. Oh, no little shiny spots from carry and so on. You can look at a revolver and tell if it's been carried regularly. You can look at this revolver, for instance, and you can tell that it has been carried regularly because it's got wear. Now this is not a very old revolver, but I do carry it. Okay, so enough about Yankee Marshal. Well, actually I will return to that a little bit, but let me give you my list. Number 5, the 2 3/4 inch barreled Ruger Speed 6. No longer made, but they're not difficult to find. Now, those are a medium frame revolver. The Speed 6 is a fixed sight version with a round butt. 357 Magnum, available in blued and stainless. And those are, they're not super heavy, they're like maybe 33 ounces or something like that. Or maybe as much as 35. They're about the same weight as the Smith & Wesson 66, which Yankee Marshal chose as his number 4. I'm choosing it as number 5 because they're not made anymore, and not quite as easy to find as they used to be, and because of the weight. And because there are somewhat better choices, although I'll tell you what, I carried one absolutely every day for years. And I loved it, and it would handle any load I could throw at it, because back then I used to load pretty heavy hand loads. And I loaded some loads that were in one of the Spear loading manuals that are generally considered to be too hot. And in fact, a couple of those loads would actually lock up a Smith & Wesson end frame, large frame. I had a Smith & Wesson Highway Patrolman Model 28, and some of the loads that my Speed 6 would digest all day long would lock up that Model 28. So, very, very strong revolver. Much stronger than a medium frame Smith & Wesson. Okay. Moving on to number 4 is a medium frame Smith & Wesson, a Model 10 2-inch barrel. Actually, this one is not a Model 10, it's a pre-Model 10, but it's the same thing. It was made before they went to the model number designation, and it only weighs about 29 or 30 ounces, and it's a really sweet little revolver. I like it a lot. And I carry it quite a bit, actually. The thing is, you know, it's 38 special, but it's 6 shots, and it's big enough to be able to shoot it well. So, pretty hard to beat that. While we're on the subject of medium frames, I did not include this, but I'm carrying it right now. I didn't include it in my list, but, you know, it is something that I regularly carry. This is a Taurus Model 66, 357 Magnum, 3-inch barrel. Carries quite well. Compares very favorably with the Smith & Wesson 66, except being a medium frame Taurus, it is more robust than a K-frame Smith & Wesson. Now, Smith & Wesson fans might not like to hear that, but it is. You know, the reason that 357 Magnum is downrated in pressure now is because of the Smith & Wesson K-frame, which would not stand up well to it. In fact, Smith & Wesson themselves, before they talked Sami into lowering the pressure spec on the 357 Magnum, they used to recommend on their 357 K-frames that you practice with 38 specials and carry 357 Magnums, because they knew that the K-frame would not stand up to a steady diet of 357 Magnums. The medium frame Taurus will. Okay, so moving on to, what are we on? Number 3. I'm going to choose another Taurus for number 3. I don't have one, but I'm going to choose the Taurus Tracker Snub Nose 2 or 2.5 inch barrel. I think it's a 2.5 inch barrel in 45 long coat. Now those are not easy to find because they didn't make them for very long. But you get 5 shots of 45 long coat, and it's strong enough to handle some pretty good loads too. 45 long coat is, in my opinion, it's probably the best, you know, stopping handgun caliber from a short barrel ever made. That would be number 3, and it's not heavy. I have here a 4-inch barrel Tracker 44 Magnum. Same gun, but with a little bit longer barrel, and then 44 Magnum. And the 44 Magnum version is going to weigh a little bit more. Plus, you know, the fact that the longer barrel is going to weigh a little more. But the 44 Magnum chambering is going to weigh more too, because being smaller diameter than the 45 Colt, it's got, the 44 version has more metal in it. But, however, it still only weighs 34 ounces. So it's a pretty light gun to carry. I think the Tracker Snub 45 Colt would be about the same weight as the 2-inch Model 10. And this has stood up to quite a bit of full power 44 Magnum so far, and it's doing just fine. So I carry this one on a somewhat often, somewhat regular basis, and it's much easier to carry than a GP100. Fits the same holster too. Alright, that was number 3. Number 2, I would choose an SP101 Ruger. Now, that's the 5-shot 357 Magnum double-action revolver. And the Yankee Marshal did not mention the SP101 except in the comments. People were asking him why he didn't mention the SP101, and he said because they're too heavy and clunky. Okay. The SP101 weighs about 26 ounces. He did mention, let's see, the Smith Wesson Model 66, which weighs a good 10 ounces more than the SP101. He mentioned the 686, which is going to weigh probably 15 ounces more than the SP101. And he chose as number 1 the Rhino, which is much clunkier and quite a bit heavier than an SP101. It weighs about 31, 32 ounces, maybe 33. And like I said, I've handled one and they are very clunky and chunky. I don't like them. So, but he just doesn't like the SP101. I do. I don't have one, but I have a friend who has 2 or 3 of them. And I've fired them quite a bit, and they're a great gun. That's why they make number 2 on my list. Plus, unlike a lot of the guns that he mentioned, you could shoot an SP101 with full power 357 Magnum every day of your life and still probably pass it down to your grandchildren. Number 1, a lot of people are going to disagree with this choice, but the reason I chose it is because it stands up very well to 38 Special Plus P. In fact, it has been proven to stand up to 357 Magnum level loads, and in fact they make a version of it with a different model number in 357 Magnum. The Taurus All Steel Model 85. It's not as light as a Smith Wesson 642, but it's stronger and it's cheaper, and it's got a lifetime warranty. And this is Taurus bread and butter. The Singapore police issue this as their standard issue revolver, and other police departments the world over also use the Taurus 85. And I've had this one for a few years now. Shot it quite a bit, including with some pretty heavy hand loads, and it's never let me down yet. So if it ever does, I'll just avail myself of that lifetime warranty. But it only weighs about 21 ounces and carries easily in a pocket. So that's why the fact that it's all steel is why I chose it over something like a Ruger LCR. Now, a Ruger LCR would be a good choice too, but I don't know. I've thought about buying one, and I certainly couldn't fault anyone for choosing that as their primary carry weapon, since it only weighs 12 or 13 ounces. I've thought about doing that myself. But I'm accustomed to carrying the Taurus 85, and I trust it, and I think that it'll last a long time. So that's my number 1 choice.